Hello, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all that goodness. Like I said last year, this is going to be a little bit of a tradition of ours every holiday season. Merry Huntmas is back for 2024 with an all-new Top 12 list. Now, if you need a refresher, Merry Huntmas is a 12-day Advent calendar-style countdown going over the best entries in a certain Monster Hunter-related category. A new type of category every year. This project is a sort of spiritual successor to Team 4-Star's December project that was effectively the same exact thing but with Dragon Ball topics. It was a project that I really enjoyed back when they ran it. It works the exact same way. 12 entries, 1 video per day, an honorable mentions video before number 1 drops on Christmas Eve, and a full compilation dropping on New Year's Eve. And the topic this year is going to be the top 12 maps in Monster Hunter. Now, you might be asking, Connor, why on earth are we doing maps now? Wilds is coming out in like 3 months. The answer, yeah, that's kind of the point. We're doing maps now before Wilds comes in and has the potential to sweep the entire list with its gigantic, multi-layered, weather-changing, stupidly detailed, interactive maps that it's posting. It is true that the locales of Monster Hunter have enormously developed and changed over the years and have had massive levels of evolution to them, but it almost kind of feels like the forefront of Wilds' marketing is its maps. So I feel like doing locales now is probably gonna be the most fair to all the previous games. And speaking of fairness in previous games, how exactly are you gonna compare first and second generation maps to say like fourth and fifth generation maps? So there's a bit of an issue that didn't exist when ranking the flagships. The majority of the maps in Monster Hunter are time capsules of the era that they were made in and are subject to the strengths and mechanics and limitations of those games. So in ranking the maps of Monster Hunter against one another across the generations, the map's execution for its time is going to be important. Obviously, a map from Monster Hunter 1 or DOS is not going to have the seamless area transitions and three-dimensional elements and not as many assets as something for the later games. Alternatively, maps from the 5th generation having all of these features need to be scrutinized a little bit harder to make sure that those features are actually working cohesively. On top of that, maps from all generations can have good or bad execution when it comes to fight arena spread, art direction, music, and monster placement. So, needless to say, this is a tricky topic to tackle, and ultimately some really good maps are gonna have to be left off of the list. There's probably gonna be more great maps off the top 12 than there will be on it. That honorable mentions video is going to be important because a lot of great locales are gonna be getting their flowers there. I'm going to be making an effort to be as fair as possible across the board here. There is one extra little interesting question though. What the heck am I going to do with arena maps and singular zone boss areas? There's a lot of those that I love too, and I did consider them as kind of a lump sum of their own singular entry, but even with that taken into consideration, I don't think the general concept of single zone arenas is going to beat out enough other locales to get on a top 12 list. When I do the honorable mentions video, I think in there I'll do kind of like a rapid fire of my top 12 single favorite arena zones. Also, frontier maps are going to be up for consideration on this list because at this point I've actually played on all of them. Monster Hunter Online also has its own maps, and I'll give them like a little bit of a look over in terms of gameplay to see if there's anything really worthwhile, but I don't know if I can quite rank them fairly since I have no way to access that game at the moment. The biggest question I think need to be answered for a list like this are, what maps are you happy to fight monsters on, and why? Which ones actually lend themselves to good gameplay? Which ones are a slog to trek through? Which ones are interesting to traverse and move throughout? Which ones have intuitive pathway system and expedient ways of getting around? Which maps make the best use of the mechanics in their game? Are these maps cluttered with filler zones and obnoxious traversal? Are they not busy enough? Do the monsters here feel sensible or tactile reflect on what actually goes into the creation of these locales to make the hunting experience enjoyable. What role do these maps and their biomes play besides just being window dressing? How interesting is the window dressing? And how does it stand out from the other locales with similar biome types? Even amongst those who genuinely love the maps of Monster Hunter, I think there can be a lot of small, tiny little gameplay design elements that can potentially get overlooked and deserve to be appreciated. So as Christmas approaches and that homely feeling starts to set in, let us celebrate the homes of our favorite monsters before we commit serial home invasions and skin the residents alive to make pants. And before the all-encompassing sandstorm of Wilds' big, bombastic, and innovative new maps obscures our attention, we're going to pay our respects to the vast swath of exemplary maps that dot the long history of Monster Hunter. Merry Huntmas returns December 12th. This has been CR-Volcanic or Connor. I'll see you then. Shout out to all the patrons, and special shout out to Stromlin, Sir Wafty, Sir Newt Newt, Shaggy Grizzly, Peaberry, Nihilist Chimerax, Datboy Doinderding, Ketz, I Think I Stole Your Sandwich, and Call Sign Shadow. Thank you very much, everyone.